It's Memorial Day weekend in 2016. We're in Hope Mills, North Carolina. 20 minutes south of Fayetteville. New homes are under construction. It is a boom time in the area. Ken Lombard takes advantage of the holiday weekend when no one's around to cruise this area, trying to pick a place for he and his family to live.
Sees something, he pulls over, he gets out.
Are they drunk and passed out? Are they sleeping? What are they doing?
Hey, excuse me.
He's completely unprepared for what he sees.
Cumberland County 911, what's the address of the emergency?
Up behind John Griffin Middle School, looks like a young male, not responsive, laying on the ground. He's young. He's got a blindfold on.
He has a blindfold on?
Yeah, it looks like he's been shot, too.
I'm Joshua Hamilton. I began my career in Hope Mills around 2006, and I worked my way up to investigations around 2010. I was attending a really good friend of mine's wedding at Carolina Beach. The phone rings. It was a senior investigator telling me I needed to get back to Hope Mills, that there had been a homicide. I never know when I'm going to get called. So it was a disappointment to have to leave this wedding. But when the phone rings, you have to go. Left my family to enjoy their time at the beach and drove back to Hope Mills.
Yeah, Detective Hamilton and I were on our way back, but it's going to take us a few hours.
His partner, Detective Reagan, goes with him.
We coordinated with the officers at the scene. It was a matter of making sure that all the evidence was collected and properly handled.
I'm the sergeant of one of the 4 platoons on the road for Hope Mills Police Department. And on this particular morning, I was in charge. In my 24 years of service, I've never seen a homicide like this. When we first got the call, we figured it was a hiker or an early morning jogger that just had a heart attack.
When we got here, we found out it was a shooting.
The victim appears to be a teenager, has a shirt or an undershirt tied around his head as if it's a blindfold. Rigor mortis has begun. This body's been dead for more than a few hours and less than a day.
You could see bullet wounds in his body. There was a gash on the top of his head with skull fragments. It looked like he was hit with something on the head.
Let's roll him over, see if he's got any ID on him.
Yeah. There was 2 projectiles that were found in the dirt underneath the body, as if they had, passed through the body and they were trapped in the dirt. That indicated to us that he was definitely killed in that location.
He did not have any ID on him, so it made it really tough for us to be able to find out why he was out there.
Finding the identity in an investigation is absolutely paramount. You can't establish a timeline. That creates a whirlwind of problems.
Sarge, we've got something over here.
So they work in the area with metal detectors, and they do find a group of expended casings.
The casings were all .380 caliber. It's a pretty common caliber. Small, but there were a number of them, which told us we were dealing with a semi-automatic handgun.
We'll keep canvassing the area for a weapon. Good work.
Based on him being blindfolded, the position of the body, it looked as if it was an execution. This was explicitly done with intent and malice. They knew what they were doing when they did it.
Once they had finished processing what they could learn from the body, they would tag it at this point with a John Doe and transport him to the medical examiner in Raleigh so an official autopsy could be performed.
So we got home back to Hope Mills and we went out to the area of McKinnon Farm Road.
I started thinking about who, what, where, when, and why. I found that most homicides in general occur involve sex, money, or drugs. Those 3 things start going through my head.
Killers, for the most part, respond to normal human emotions. They're often remorseful afterwards. When you get somebody abnormal, which fortunately for all of us is a relatively rare thing, they don't need a reason. They kill because they like it. There's no more dangerous person than that.
How'd this kid get here?
I'm wondering, had he been kidnapped and taken to this location, robbed, shot?
We started creating theories of what could have happened. And we were all over the place, from some sort of gang initiation to a robbery or a drug deal going awry.
When there is no wallet or any paperwork of any kind, the first step is to try to get fingerprints from the hands to see if this person is in the criminal justice system.
Well, it's holiday weekend, but I'll make a phone call, see if I can't get someone in to check his prints.
Right. What's this?
I think it may be tire tracks in the suspect vehicle.
We had little tire tracks, but we also didn't know whose tire tracks belonged to who.
This is a dirt road where people go out there to four-wheel drive. We weren't sure if it was part of the crime scene or if this was kids playing and riding around in their ATVs.
Hey, detectives, I think I've got something over here.
Thank you.
We had located a baseball bat that was on the opposite side of the trail from where the victim was found.
There appeared to be blood and dirt on the tip of it, but they also thought it might have been red paint. This is a construction site. This is an area where kids could be playing.
Kids often attack construction areas by beating on things that aren't theirs and so on. Could it be some painted object somewhere that's where the red came from? It's hard to say, but it's there, so it cannot be ignored.
Looks like we have some company.
The media showed up. They listened to scanners. It's not uncommon for them to hear voices on the radio, and next thing you know, they're going to show up.
The problem with that was we didn't need them getting close and disturbing or destroying any evidence.
You're just going to have to wait back by your van.
Can you just tell us what's going on?
Nope, not right now.
Well, Officer Whitmill is assigned to prevent them from interfering with the investigation. He notices a car. He's seen it a couple of times in the last few minutes driving back and forth near the crime scene.
We didn't know why they were there, what they were up to. So it was kind of odd that somebody would just show up there and watch us.
There's an old expression in law enforcement, it's called JDLR. Just doesn't look right.
That made us really suspicious that these might be the suspects.
It's not unusual for a suspect to return to the scene of a crime or even remain present at the scene of a crime to see what the police are up to.
I was notified that this car's driven by multiple times, so I had the officers initiate an investigative stop on the vehicle.
Hey, stop! Stop right there! Roll your window down. What are you guys doing out here right now?
Is there a problem, officer?
It's important to talk to them. Who are they, and what's their explanation for being in this area?
The officer was able to talk to the two people, and they said, we're just looking around, just kind of curious, that sort of thing.
They say, that's not against the law, is it? No, it's not. But you still confirm. You check it out.
They asked them where they were on the night of May 27th of 2016, where the car was.
He explains that they were in the military stationed at Fort Bragg. They verify that both men were on duty that night, and therefore they could not be involved in this homicide.
I think they were just being fairly nosy. Wanted to know what was going on in the area. It all led back to nothing. Just got to continue to drive on and come up with something else.
So it's time to take the next step. They take prints from the remains of this young man to see if this person is in the criminal justice system.
And unfortunately, he had not been entered in the APHIS fingerprint system, which told us, one, we were dealing with a young person that possibly had never been in trouble.
He is a truly innocent victim.
Thank you.
We started searching missing person reports from neighboring jurisdictions.
I called almost every police department in the area. sheriff's office and police department, probably in a solid 30 to 50 mile radius of Hope Mills looking.
All of them come back, no missing reports matching his description.
I appreciate it.
At the present moment, our young man is nothing more than a ghost. No one seems to know who he is or where he's from.
It really gets frustrating because identifying your victim shouldn't be the hard part. The hard part should be trying to figure out who committed this heinous crime.
Well, Hamilton and Reagan have got this search underway. They re-canvass the neighborhood and make sure that no one saw or heard anything.
I want witnesses. I want people to start knocking on doors and talking to people. You're not going to know what people seen. You're not going to know what people heard until you start asking them, whether they want to talk to you or not. If they don't, a lot of times they'll take a card and call you later.
They run across a woman in the neighborhood about a half a mile away from the crime scene.
Oh, I did hear something. I'm in charge of our neighborhood watch group.
Oh, wow. She's the chairperson of the neighborhood watch group. She could be a great resource.
She was telling us that several people had posted on their community board about hearing shots fired in the area on Friday night.
Here it is.
He says he heard the gunshots just after 11:30 p.m.
Any others?
Yeah, let me find it. Here it is.
Just before midnight.
That is the first significant piece of information they have. They can now start building a timeline for this murder. But the question remains, who is John Doe?
While all this is going on, the victim had been transported to the offices of the Chief Medical Examiner in Raleigh.
As you can see, we got quite a few bullet wounds to the torso and upper body.
They learned the victim has suffered multiple gunshot wounds to the torso, the arm, and the right thigh.
He had been shot from different angles. That told me immediately that he was rolling around and he was alive when he took most of his shots. There was nothing quick about how he died.
But there's more evidence of assault here.
The skull had been deformed like it had been hit with a blunt object several times.
The Chief Medical Examiner confirms that the cause of death was the blow to the head.
Excuse me, sorry. This is Hamilton.
When Hamilton's at the coroner's office, his cell phone rings. It's a friend of his from Oak County Sheriff's Department.
He told me that they had responded to a missing person report filed by Amanda Daniels. Amanda reported her brother missing.
It was for a 16-year-old young man, and his name was Andrew Dorenzi.
Thank you. We got a likely candidate. They're going to email me a picture sent by the kid's family.
She was able to send me a picture to my cell phone immediately, and when I seen the picture, I knew we were looking at the individual we were supposed to be. That was definitely him, without a doubt.
Here it is.
He takes his cell phone and holds it up next to the face on the morgue table. Oh, God. That's him. That's our kid. The first step is to make a death notification to the Dorenzi family.
Death notifications are the worst. Breaks your heart, especially you're dealing with a kid.
And we apologize for being here under these circumstances.
When they came up to the house, my sisters were there, and me and my husband.
We kind of knew what to expect. My whole drive home from work, I just cried and prayed and tried to figure out what was going on.
And we told the family that a body had been discovered and that we had some photographs that we'd like somebody to look at and see if they could identify the body.
My husband was like, I'll check it so they don't have to. And I'm a control freak, so I'm like, no, I'm going to look at this photo with you.
You can step over here, please.
So then Detective Hamilton pulled a phone out, and when he turned it on. There was a picture on there, and I could immediately tell it was Andrew.
They were both looking at the picture, and I could see by Amanda's expression on her face that it was him.
My stomach definitely dropped when I saw his face on the phone. The differences in the way he looked the last time I saw him alive to the way he looked in the picture was just kind of terrifying.
I just started crying. I fell to the floor. I kept screaming that this can't be real.
All I could do was hug on his sisters and let them know that, we were going to do everything we could to find out what happened to him and punish the ones who did it.
Nate and Amanda walked down the porch with me, and we started talking about Andrew.
Andrew was 14 when he came to live with us because my mom was having some health issues.
He just needed a place to have a better living environment than what his mother could give him.
So she ended up letting him come up and stay with us.
Amanda and I had 3 boys, and they just loved their Uncle Andrew.
He was definitely more like a bigger brother to them. It was beautiful. I was like, that's so cute. He's trying to teach him everything.
They explained he's 16 years old and he's very bright. He's homeschooled. He works 2 jobs.
He wanted to be a pilot. He just wasn't sure if he wanted to go the military route to do it or figure out his own way to pay for flight lessons to do it.
Do you recall the last time you spoke with Andrew?
Yeah, I just spoke with him Friday night.
I called and had to ask him for money. His car had broken down near McKinnon Farm Road, and he needed money to try to get a tow truck.
I explained to him that I didn't have any cash at the time, but I could come out to where he was and get his car fixed there. But he had told me that I didn't need to worry about that and that he was safe. And that was just kind of a weird thing for him to say at the time.
This call puts Andrew at the crime scene. But the question is, where is Andrew's car? Did the killer take it? They put on an APB and continue with their interview.
We learned that Andrew had a bank account that was linked to Amanda and Nate's bank account.
Huh. That's odd.
What's that?
Do you know anything about these withdrawals?
So we had seen that on Friday he had withdrawn $80 from his account, and then later on had moved $120 from Amanda's account to his and withdrew it.
I was like, what is he doing? This is not Andrew. He does not take money like that.
So that Saturday, we just continuously called him and texted him to try to figure out where he was, why he took all the money out of Amanda's account, and just couldn't get a hold of him.
Amanda kept thinking that maybe something was wrong with his phone. And Sunday, nobody heard from him, and we decided that Amanda should go file a missing persons report.
Could these bank withdrawals be linked to his murder? What if somebody is aware he has access to money and takes it under threat of death and then kills him anyway? Since he's homeschooled, they're going to ask, so who does he run with? Who does he spend his time with?
We had told the detectives that Andrew really only had one friend, and his name was Daniel.
And according to the family, Andrew actually moved in with Daniel a few weeks earlier.
Andrew was definitely an independent kid. He was kind of ready to get out on his own and start being an adult.
Hey. Hey, man. Thanks again for letting me stay here.
Yeah, it's cool. We're gonna grab something to eat. You guys wanna come with?
Yeah, I could eat. What about you? Sure. Let me just throw my stuff down.
We had met Daniel at the Fort Bragg Fair just a couple weeks prior to this. His mom was a bail bondsman, but we didn't really know much else about him.
When she said that, I knew exactly who she was talking about. There was only one female bondsperson that I was familiar with that had a son named Daniel.
They call her and they tell her they want to have a conversation with her son, Daniel. She agrees to set this meeting up at her office.
Hey, May.
Hey, come on back. We're glad to help you. Daniel's back here in the back office.
So they go in and sit down with Daniel.
Hey, thanks for meeting us.
Yeah, hi. What's all this about?
Daniel was 19 years old, clean cut, well dressed, and we told him while we were there that we wanted to talk about Andrew.
First thing out of his mouth was, yeah, I heard about Andrew. It's bad how he was left out in the woods like that.
It's really messed up, you know.
It was like light bulbs going off in my mind because we had never released to the media anything other than a death investigation, not even that it was a man or a woman. So it told us he knew something more than what he should have.
So how does Daniel know that? Well, that is the million-dollar question. Daniel Hall has stated facts to Hamilton and Reagan that he could not reasonably know unless he was involved.
He said, you know, it's really messed up how they found him shot up like that.
So now alarm bells go off in their heads. Hamilton's alarms are ringing so loud he can't hear himself think.
I kind of glanced over at Regan, and I knew exactly he caught on to it too. We knew we were about to get something out of him at that point.
I heard you and Andrew were living together recently.
Yeah, me, Andrew, and my brother Devon. But it was just for a little while. Hey, give me some of that.
Yeah, you got something to drink?
Yeah, I checked the fridge. You guys have any cash? We need to pay that electric bill. Yeah, I'm working on it.
He said Andrew moved in with he and his brother Devon, but they were having trouble paying their bills.
You hear me, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't got it right now, but...
Daniel explains they were evicted the week before Andrew was found dead, and Andrew had not been seen by Daniel for that entire week.
It's an email from the bank. I'm gonna step outside a minute.
We know Andrew used an ATM late that night, so I was working in conjunction with the State Employees Credit Union.
The email informs him that they have reviewed the surveillance tapes for the time in question, and they have attached photographs to the email.
In the first image, there was Andrew standing at the ATM withdrawing money, and there was a silver Pontiac Sunfire in the background, obviously waiting on him.
In another picture, Hamilton sees a black male driving a different car. The most interesting fact in Hamilton's view is that Andrew is seated in the back passenger seat. There are others in the car, but Hamilton can't make them out.
We're dealing with a lot of people now. We just need to find out who these people are. I was super excited jumping up and down when I got that picture. We had a lead.
Hamilton knows by his own experience he's probably looking at pictures of the people that killed Andrew Dorenzi.
We should keep going, George.
Wait. There's something that I need to tell you.
When Hamilton rejoins the group after reviewing his photos, Daniel, without being prompted, suddenly wants to change his story.
I picked him up.
I think Daniel realized real quick that we were going to be able to see those banking transactions and tell that they were together on that night.
So I began talking to Daniel, and he actually admits that he saw Andrew Friday night. He admitted that he drove a silver Pontiac Sunfire. He told me that he had picked Andrew up and they had gone to the ATM to get some money that Andrew owed him for a light bill from when he lived with him.
How much money? It was around $80.
Okay, continue.
He said they got a milkshake. Then he took Andrew back to a guy named Ian Robinson's house to drop him off.
It's obvious to Hamilton and to Reagan that Daniel is all over the map with his story. First, he's convinced he hadn't seen him for a week, and all of a sudden he is convinced he saw him yesterday.
Anything Daniel said at that point needed to be corroborated. It's time to go track down Ian and see what Ian has to say.
We find Ian Robinson, and Ian agrees to talk.
Yeah, they were here that night.
His statement was Andrew and Daniel had left together in Daniel's car. They were gone for a short time, but did come back.
Ian's telling us part truths and half truths, but he's not telling us the full truth.
So we got a little harder on him. I told Ian that whoever gets on the train first is going to get to ride. The DA's office was going to look for the most cooperative one, and lying was just going to make it worse.
Ian then says Daniel came running up to the front and said they grabbed Andrew and threw him in the car. They have him. But Daniel never said who they are.
I believe that Ian was not being 100% honest. To what level, I didn't know exactly. So Ian was offered a polygraph examination.
Yeah, whatever you need. Come on, gotta call work though. Hey.
I was like, awesome, let's do this. I set it up that day.
He thinks he can outsmart these detectives. Well, he has another thing coming.
Are we now in the state of North Carolina?
Yes.
Do you know how Andrew was killed?
No.
Do you know for sure who is responsible for Andrew's death?
No.
I'm able to sit in another room and actually watch the test. He's fidgeting around. He's having to be told to sit still. He's just clearly nervous.
Okay, we're all done. Just sit tight and I'll be right back.
The polygrapher came in and basically told me Ian knew way more than he was ever letting on.
Matter of fact, the polygraph examiner that did the examination has done more polygraphs than anybody else in the state of North Carolina, and said it was one of the worst fails he'd ever seen.
So, of course, he got a post-polygraph interview. We didn't even go to a recorded room. We sat outside on the curb. I sat down next to him, and we just had a heart-to-heart. I just told him, look, man, this is the time. It's now or never. The cards were starting to stack against him. His demeanor started changing. That's when he pretty much told us what had happened.
He tells Hamilton that the first part of what he said is true, that Andrew and Daniel went to the ATM machine to get the money that Andrew owed for utilities payment.
He said while they were gone, Devon showed up at his house.
Screwed us to that apartment.
Dude, Andrew's out getting the money right now.
He needs to cough up more.
Devon said that he was going to kidnap Andrew.
Meeting my friends in a minute and buying a piece off of him.
What? A gun? Are you serious? I don't want any part of this.
I'm not asking you to do anything. Just keep your mouth shut.
Devon tells Ian, I'm going to take him to the ATM by force and make him pay me. And I'll give you $100 to look the other way.
Ian agreed to accept the $100. And all he knew was Devon did show up when they got back and took Andrew, put him into a car, and drove away.
That's when Hamilton recalls the car seen in the background on the second withdrawal picture.
You recognize this car?
He said he wasn't sure, but he had seen a red car that looked like that one at Devon and Daniel's apartment complex.
Oh, really? Daniel and his brother Devon are in this murder investigation up to their neck.
So now we need to get Devon and Daniel at this point. We make arrangements to start getting some reinforcements together to go over to Devon's apartment where they're living now.
Once we got there, we got notified that Daniel was leaving the house. So we instructed one of the officers to go ahead and stop him.
Here he comes, guys. Here he comes. Go, go, go.
Daniel, put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. Do not move. Do not move. Put your hands on your back.
He offers no resistance. It's almost as if he's resigned to the fact he's going to be arrested. He just slumps his shoulders and immediately turns around when they tell him to.
He was placed in the custody, put in a car, and transported to Fayetteville Police Department. Then we went with those officers to the apartment.
Everybody on your toes now.
Anytime you're walking up to an apartment like this, there's always some apprehension. This could go really wrong.
Once you kill once, after that it's only in numbers. Anyone who is responsible for the death of a human being is dangerous.
I hear him.
They knock loudly. They hear music and voices inside, no response at the door. What is coming through that door next? Bullets or a face? Hard to say. They're prepared for both. When they knock on the door the second time, they're prepared for whatever happens behind that door. But when the door opens, it's a tall kid with unkempt hair.
Are you Devon Hall?
Yeah? What's going on?
I'm gonna need you to come with us. Your hands, show me your hands. Show me your hands.
Yeah.
They push the door open wider, and sitting on the sofa is a thin black male who looks remarkably like the guy in the ATM machine photo.
We had no idea we were looking for this guy, but that's the guy right there. We got eyes on him now.
Get up! Stand up! What's your name? Darian Rebels. What kind of car you drive, Darian? A red Honda Accord. Why?
That's the very same car they saw in the bank photos.
He and Devon Hall were taken to the police department. I began securing search warrants for Darian's car, and then Detective Hamilton started conducting interviews.
I went to talk to Darian. Darian told me that he knew nothing about the homicide.
This is my first time ever being here. I've never murdered anybody, and I know just stuff like that.
Darian doesn't know he's Darian. The usual story. He doesn't know anything about anything. He doesn't know who Andrew is. Never seen anybody named Andrew, never been anywhere. Spent most of his life alone, apparently.
Do you really want to go this route? What route? First degree murder. No, sir.
I can let you keep digging your own grave.
I laid a picture in front of him of the ATM showing him making a transaction with the victim's bank card. At that point, I just let him start talking.
Darian says that Devon Hall told him that Andrew had given money to Daniel when in fact he should have given it to him. And he's going to get this money from him no matter what it takes to do it.
Darian, being a good friend, said, "Hey, I'll go help you get that money. It's fine."
What were you doing? I was driving. He took me to a house.
Darian says that Devon said he knew someone that had a gun for sale, and he was going to go get that gun and use it to threaten Andrew with to get his money.
They went and picked up Deontay Walker.
You got the piece?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it.
Get in.
All right.
He got in the car. He was going to accompany that gun until they got the money. Darian said they showed back up over at Ian's, that Devon exited the car, approached Andrew with the gun, ordering that he come with him.
Andrew, get in the car.
I guess they got into some argument, I don't know. And then they all got in the car.
They left the area, told Andrew, you owe me money. Andrew tells him, just take me to an ATM. I'll give you all I can.
Give me your 10 bank card. Now, come on.
Okay, here.
He got up to the window and used the PIN number to withdraw $120, which is a maximum withdrawal from an ATM machine.
They leave that location when they go to McKinnon Farm Road. They pull down this dirt road. They all get out of the car.
And then it all happened. Ice and flashes. Gunshots.
And Darian says, I couldn't watch anymore at that point. I got back in the car. So Hamilton goes back and confronts Devon.
Your life is about to change. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to tell me exactly in your own words what happened and why things went so bad. Because at the end of the day, evidence don't lie.
Devon was a very cocky, arrogant individual. He felt that it was pure disrespect that Andrew didn't pay him his share of his debt that was a few $100 that they had to split.
I had called him, I was like, yo, I gotta get something, bro. I don't care what it is, bro. It can be $10, $15, da-da-da-da. And he was like, I was like, bro, are you serious?
So he came up with the idea to kidnap Andrew and get that money that he felt that he deserved.
Yeah, 120. It was 120. He handed me the money and I was like, damn. I was really about to let him go. And I called my brother and I was like, bro, I got the money. I got $120. And DJ was like, yeah, that's some money, but it's not enough.
They leave that location when they go to McKinnon Farm Road. They pull down this dirt road. They all get out of the car, trying to figure out how they're going to get more money.
You need to come up with some more money, bro. I don't care how you get it, but you better find it somehow.
I can't get you any more money.
Devon says, call your family and get more money. This is a conversation that Nate remembered. He tells him it's for a car problem, but it's really not for that. It's for Devon. That all fails.
New plan. Tell you what, if you do this, you're cool about it, we'll let you go. Put that on. Get in the car.
So Andrew basically puts a blindfold on himself, a shirt out of the back of the car. They put him in the trunk, and they begin to ride around a dirt road in an undeveloped subdivision.
How do we know he's not gonna say nothing? How are we sure that he's not gonna say anything? And I was like, bro, I'm gonna just have to do it.
Thank you for not killing me. Thank you. I thought you were gonna kill me. Thank you.
He gets Andrew out of the trunk, and Andrew even says to Devon, thank you for not killing me. And Devon says in reply, I got you, man.
I backed up and I fired 3 shots. And I heard him say, shoot me in my head.
Shoot me in my head!
So, shot 5 more times. I just went in and got all of them out.
Devon's angry. Angry that Andrew just won't die. And proceeds to pound on Andrew's head until he stops moving.
He was gone. I just through the back, the woods, all that. I was like, bro, we gonna take me off.
Devon was probably the coldest individual I've ever seen. He had no remorse for anything he had done. After the interview on him, he asked for one thing, to call his mom. So we called his mom, and I sat there and listened to him tell his mom that he's being charged with murder.
Mom. Baby. I just got charged with first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, first-degree armed robbery.
And I'm just watching this ripple effect of families ruined. Andrew's family's life's ruined. Now, Devon, as a parent, I'm just like, Jesus, my Lord.
3 men are charged with taking a 16-year-old boy to a dirt road in Cumberland County and killing him.
Police say it happened last weekend in Hope Mills. 18-year-old Devon Hall, 19-year-old Daniel Hall, and 20-year-old Darian Rebels all are of Fayetteville, and they're all charged in connection. Police are not identifying the 16-year-old victim. All 3 men are being held in the Cumberland County Detention Center.
One thing that was very interesting in this case is none of them had criminal records before this tragic homicide occurred. We spent a lot of time determining what was the appropriate level of culpability for each one of these individuals.
Devon Hall accepted a plea deal for first-degree murder, robbery with a dangerous weapon, first-degree kidnapping.
He received life in prison without the possibility of parole in exchange for taking the death penalty off the table.
Daniel Hall helped his brother Devon get Andrew's car away from Ian's house and sold the car. So Daniel pled guilty to accessory after the fact to kidnapping and received 3 years in jail. Ian Robinson accepted $100 for allowing Andrew to be kidnapped there at his house. He pled guilty to accessory after the fact to kidnapping and received about 2 or 3 years in jail.
Deontay Walker brought the gun to the equation.
He also pled guilty to accessory after the fact and received about 2 to 3 years in jail. Darian Rebels, the driver, pled guilty to armed robbery, conspiracy, and kidnapping and received about 10 years in prison for his role.
The hardest part about everything was knowing that the people involved, for the most part, they all knew Andrew and they knew the type of person he was. The world's missing a really great giver to humanity with Andrew gone.
When Andrew first moved in, my kids were always home, and he was trying to teach them work ethic and appreciating the small things and stuff. So that's actually one of the things I still miss, because for me, even though I lost him too, I know that relationship he had and how it affected the kids.
Detectives Hamilton and Reagan handled this case expertly. They pushed all the buttons and they pushed them in the correct order. They were able to resolve a mystery in relatively short order by doing what homicide detectives do. One foot in front of the other. One fact to the next fact. Until you have the right faces in front of you. Precisely what they did in this case. And what they've done in every case. Andrew Dorenzi was an innocent person who wanted to be a pilot. Died before his 17th birthday. Died before he ever took the controls of an aircraft that he dreamed about all his life.
I still don't think that it's really hit me that I'm never going to see him again. It really doesn't make sense.
With any homicide, it never goes away. Someday, I'll retire from this career, God willing. And I'll carry to the grave any and all homicides I've worked in my time. The circumstances and the devastation that they all created, you think about them all the time.
One of the deputies went out to the residence, and when he went inside, he discovered the body. The level of violence in this homicide was astonishing. She'd been shot 5 times, stabbed deeply 5 times, and vigorously beaten with an aluminum baseball bat. When he exited the house, he actually threw up. It was kind of crazy.
The murder of Genora Guillory sent shockwaves through her small Louisiana town.
Everybody was scared, especially if you were a woman, you know. It was the summer of fear.
Today, we're in Clinton, Louisiana for the case of Genora Guillory, whose unsolved murder became a talking point among local politicians. I'm Sloan Glass, and this is American Homicide. Just a warning, this episode contains some graphic content. Please take care while listening. Before we go into the story of Genora, we have to talk about Louisiana. It's not trite to say that it really is a melting pot, a mix of so many different ingredients that come together to create something really unique and beautiful. The food, the music, the environment, the weather, it's thick in the air. It actually reminds me of the dish that they are best known for, gumbo. Combination of different types of meat or seafood and celery, bell peppers, onions, all coming together for this hearty stew.
Gumbo being one of the spicy, fantastic dishes of South Louisiana, Cajun land.
Albert Guillory is a lawyer and former state senator in Louisiana, where gumbo isn't just the official dish. It's a culture.
We call ourselves gumbo people, a blend of French Catholic, particularly African, and a lot of Native American.
That blend of culture is what makes Louisiana so unique.
This is the most fascinating place in the world, the most fantastic food, the best music, and greatest dancing.
While cities like Baton Rouge and New Orleans get the spotlight, Albert believes it's the many small towns that make up the fabric of the state.
We call ourselves the real Louisiana. People are much warmer, much more open. Our food is better. Our music is better. It's just a whole different world. It's a much more integrated world in the country than in the city.
One such integrated place is the town of Clinton. Clinton sits about 30 miles northeast of Baton Rouge. The rural community of about 1,200 residents dates back to the early 1800s. Today, its population is nearly split equally among Black and white residents, but is still working to overcome its racially fraught history. For years, residents argued over a giant 30-foot statue of a Confederate soldier that stands in downtown Clinton. It's been there since the early 1900s, and despite numerous efforts to remove the controversial monument, it remains there today.
This is America. There is racism in America, and that's just a part of life. We've come a long way during my lifetime, and we still have a few more yards to go before we reach the finish line.
Back in 2000, Albert's sister-in-law, Genora Guillory, was living on a large 10-acre lot in Clinton.
She lived down a country road. There were only 2 residences on that country road. She liked the fact that it was far out in the country.
Genora, or Miss G, as her neighbors called her, was a single career woman whose love for the country was only surpassed by her affinity for animals.
She loved horses and had horses. She loved dogs and had some dogs, and particularly one, Cleo, was her absolute favorite and lived in her home with her. They were very, very close.
Cleo was Genora's protector. She would bark at almost anyone who came near her. Genora used to joke that none of her outfits were complete without Cleo's dog hair, or hair of any of the 20 or so dogs she kept in a large kennel behind her home.
She loved the idea that she would be able to have her animals there in an undisturbed fashion.
It was undisturbed, all right. Genora's farmhouse-style home sat on a huge parcel of land off a dead-end road. In the distance were several tall trees and a cemetery. It would be a scary place for anyone to live, especially a single woman. Genora felt grateful to have neighbors living up the block.
There was a trailer about a half city block down across the little street, and it was occupied by a family named Skipper. Mr. Skipper, his wife, and their children.
The Skipper's trailer may have been an eyesore, but having Philip and his wife Amy Skipper as neighbors was a welcome sight for Genora. She was a single career woman who lived alone. Her job in Baton Rouge kept her away most of the day, so she relied on the Skippers for help.
Mr. Skipper assisted with the animals, who made sure that they were fed and received water and those kinds of things. Mrs. Skipper was employed by Genora as a housekeeper.
But it was more than a working relationship. The Skippers and Genora were very close, especially because Genora depended on them for so much. If she ever needed help at home, she knew she could rely on the Skippers. You see, Genora was very successful. She worked for a major insurance company and would leave for work early in the morning and return late at night. But on the morning of Monday, June 26, 2000, the lights in Genora's Baton Rouge office were off, and her desk sat empty.
Her coworkers got worried about her because she didn't show up for work.
Detective Joel Odom worked for the East Feliciana Sheriff's Department.
They called the sheriff's office and asked to do a check on her house and a welfare check.
With no sign of Genora and a constant busy signal on her landline phone, a patrol car was dispatched just after 10 a.m.
Clinton is pretty quiet. It's a small community. Most everybody knows everybody. Not much goes on up there.
It took about 30 minutes for the squad car to make it to Genora's home in Clinton.
When he first arrived there, he saw that the door was open to the residence.
That's where Genora's dog Cleo was found tied to a railing near the carport. Cleo was upset and barking. She even tried to bite the officer as he quickly squeezed past her.
And when he went inside, he could see blood basically all over the living room, the phone, the kitchen.
Then they walked into the bedroom. A broken lamp lay on the floor next to an overturned end table. Blood spatter covered the walls, along with bullet holes above the bed. And the body of Genora Guillory lay on the floor.
She'd been shot 5 times, stabbed deeply 5 times.
It was awful. This entire story gives me such a stomachache, and this is where the details get really hard. Bruises covered her entire face. Genora's skull almost looked flattened by whatever was used to hit her.
She took a blow to the spinal column that severed it straight from the back of her neck. You can imagine how much damage a blow like that would do.
If what happened to Genora Guillory wasn't already bad enough, there were also signs she was sexually assaulted. It was a horrifying scene for a small-town police officer, or anyone for that matter.
And this was a violent homicide, probably more brutal than most homicides you'll ever see. I believe when he exited the house, he actually threw up.
Think about that for a second. The scene was so bad that it sickened the deputy.
We have murders up in Clinton, but nothing that was the level of this. It's heartbreaking. Makes me feel sorry for the family to know their loved one had to go through something like that.
Detective Don McKee arrived a short time later and began to piece together what happened to Genora Guillory.
She was laying in the back corner of the bedroom. She had stabs in her hands, in her arms. So you could see that she was trying to fight back. It was just obvious that this was a homicide.
Detectives searched the house, and they didn't find anything missing. They also didn't find any major clues.
At that point, we secured the scene. We called for Louisiana State Police, the crime lab, to come and process the scene. While we was there waiting for that to occur, we talked to the Skippers.
As Genora's body was taken out in a body bag, Her neighbors and good friends, Philip and Amy Skipper, were standing outside. A very pregnant Amy stood on the edge of the driveway with her husband crying.
Amy was just really upset. She was hysterical. And they were shook up. I mean, they just couldn't understand why this would have happened to her.
Amy and Philip were two 20-somethings who lived in a mobile home with their children. They explained to detectives that Genora, or Miss G as they called her, was the most generous person they had ever met.
Everybody was talking about how big of a heart she had. She would pick up stray dogs and bring them to the vet and get them checked out and take care of them.
And the Skippers provided detectives with their first clue. They said Genora's dogs never barked at nighttime. However, the previous morning, they heard Genora's dogs barking around 2 a.m.
That's when we noticed scratches on both of their arms and then questioned them about it.
Philip Skipper's arms were all scratched up, but he had an explanation. He said that he and his stepson, John Ballio, had been horsing around in the yard.
He said it was wrestling in the yard and so forth.
The Skippers were the only ones who lived nearby, and those scratches were something detectives couldn't ignore. So, in order to rule them out as suspects, they had Philip Skipper and his stepson, John Ballio, take a polygraph test.
They submitted to a polygraph test, and both of them passed that.
After they passed with flying colors, the detectives were back to square one.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the middle of the night, Saskia awoke in a haze. Her husband, Mike, was on his laptop. What was on his screen would change Saskia's life forever.
I said, I need you to tell me exactly what you're doing. And immediately, the mask came off.
You're supposed to be safe. That's your home. That's your husband.
To keep this secret for so many years, he's like a seasoned pro.
This is a story about the end of a marriage, but it's also the story of one woman who was done living in the dark.
You're a dangerous person who preys on vulnerable and trusting people. You're a predator, Michael Levingood.
Listen to Betrayal Season 5 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Genora lived in a nice house out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's down at, the end of this gravel road.
Journalist Chuck Hussmeyer covered the story.
Well, the door was open to the house. It wasn't forced, which, is a clue right there that she likely knew the killer.
Based on her autopsy, the police determined Genora died sometime in the very early hours of Sunday morning. And given the severity of her injuries and the fact that nothing was taken from her home, they wondered if Genora's killer may have held some sort of grudge towards her.
Typically in a murder case, you start with the closest circle of people to the victim, husbands, wives, boyfriends, any kind of lovers, friends, things like that. And in this case, Genora had a boyfriend, a long-term boyfriend, but he had died.
2 years earlier, her boyfriend fell asleep at the wheel and got into a fatal car accident. That left Genora devastated and alone.
But after that, it's really digging into the history of the victim. Who was she? Who did she know? Who was mad at her?
At the time, Genora was 42 years old. She worked in human resources for an insurance company in Baton Rouge. Since she handled the hiring and firing, detectives questioned her coworkers to see if there were any former disgruntled employees.
People like that are who you want to check out first.
Her colleagues couldn't think of any disgruntled ex-employees, but they did tell detectives about a suspicious male friend of Genora's.
She had complained to her coworkers that he was harassing her, and he was very persistent. He would stake out her car sometimes in the parking lot, catch her after work because she wasn't answering his phone call, so he would go and, visit her, so to speak, in person, although she didn't want it. So he was a very viable candidate as a suspect.
That man was an old friend of Genora's named Steve.
They went on a date one time, and he made her really uncomfortable.
Detective Joel Odom investigated and learned Genora met Steve in the 80s, but the two had lost touch. They'd recently reconnected, and just before her murder, they went out on a date. But things quickly soured. Genora wasn't interested in seeing him again, but Steve wouldn't take no for an answer. Genora said Steve wouldn't stop touching her.
She thought that was going to be the end of it, but actually that was just the beginning. He would call her at work multiple times, and they'd even heard him argue on the phone, and she had told him, "Quit calling me at work."
In the month before her murder, Steve's phone number turned up on Genora's home phone 11 times, including Saturday, June 24th, hours before Genora was murdered. And then there was this. The previous Friday, Genora told her colleague that she hoped Steve wouldn't show up at her house that weekend. That was the last time any of Genora's colleagues saw her alive.
So we started looking to him and found out he, at the time, was a Baton Rouge City police officer. Everybody was just shocked.
Although he was 45 years old at the time, Steve was a rookie cop. He had just graduated from the academy. He spent the prior 20-plus years working as a corrections officer. All of this, combined with his repeated unwanted advances, made detectives suspicious.
So we felt he was a good suspect at the time, but it's hard.
As you can imagine, questioning one of their own requires a delicate dance.
There's no correct way to do it. And I was a young detective back then. I was kind of gullible, I believe, with the people that were supposed to take care of the people and the public. Wouldn't lie to you or would not lie to the public.
No matter what, one cop investigating another cop means you're gonna step on some toes and potentially cross some unspoken lines. But that didn't stop them.
At the time, we didn't have anything. Basically, we had a crime scene, no murder weapon, just phone records and other stuff that we could develop.
Detectives continued to look into Steve. He cooperated with their investigation.
We pulled him in for questioning, and we offered him a polygraph at the time.
Steve agreed, and the results shocked everyone in the room.
He failed the polygraph, and then he said, "I don't want to talk to you. I want my lawyer." And that was the end of the interview.
Okay, So things weren't looking good for Officer Steve, and detectives continued to look for anything that would connect him to the crime. Journalist Chuck Hussmeyer covered the story.
He left a message on her answering machine right before she died that he was going to be in the area. And of course, you're really not in that area unless you're going out there on purpose. But he claimed he was going to be in the area and he would stop by.
That's something important to remember. Genora lived in the middle of nowhere, so you really had to go out of your way to get to her house. But Officer Steve had an alibi. He said that on the weekend of Genora's murder, he was at his mother's house. And this part's surprising. He was married at the time and even had a son, who he dropped off at a nearby camp. He did admit to calling Genora that Saturday, but she told him she couldn't talk. He called again the following day, but he said the line was busy.
He had made Genora nervous to the point where she wouldn't take his phone calls.
Detectives learned Steve sometimes stopped by Genora's house and office unannounced, which obviously scared Genora. And get this, he even called Genora's colleague a couple days after her death and asked for Genora's parents' phone number.
There's just a lot of weird stuff going on with this guy.
Things got even more unsettling when they visited the police academy Officer Steve attended. There was a payphone there where fellow cadets said they always saw Steve making calls. Detectives got a phone log from that payphone and found 35 phone calls placed from that phone to Genora's Baton Rouge office. Who do you call when the police are the ones harassing you?
They interviewed people that he knew, including another woman who was in the police academy with him, who said he kind of harassed her. So, this guy's got kind of a history of harassing women that don't return his affections.
Even after Steve lawyered up and stopped cooperating, detectives continued to turn up the heat.
And they really went after him hard. They executed a search warrant on his house, on his car, and they didn't find anything. They couldn't link him to the crime.
So this had to be frustrating for detectives. They now had plenty of circumstantial evidence, but nothing concrete. Officer Steve failed his polygraph. He admitted to phoning Genora multiple times a day. And he admitted to even showing up at Genora's office unannounced. But all of that wasn't enough to press charges.
Can't charge anybody without evidence, so they just have to either dig up another lead or wait for some kind of a break to come your way.
While detectives continued their investigation, Genora's brother-in-law, Albert, struggled to stay positive. Here's Albert.
That was not an easy time. Not at all.
At the time of Genora's murder, the police had lifted some DNA from under her fingernails. But keep in mind, it was still the early days of DNA testing. And the testing was not only expensive, but slow. It was the year 2000. It took months for the labs to process it.
There were some missteps and some broken leads, as there are in many investigations, but it would be difficult for all of us.
It required a good deal of patience on all sides.
We did everything that we could to be helpful to law enforcement. Families, under these emotional, devastating circumstances, can sometimes get underfoot. They want to try the case in the press and all of that. And that was not something that we would do, and we did not do.
Albert and Genora's family weren't the only ones losing patience. Law enforcement was also disappointed with how long it took the labs to process that DNA. But one arrest, 1 year later, would change everything.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
to be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the middle of the night, Saskia awoke in a haze. Her husband, Mike, was on his laptop. What was on his screen would change Saskia's life forever.
I said, I need you to tell me exactly what you're doing. And immediately, the mask came off.
You're supposed to be safe. That's your home. That's your husband.
To keep this secret for so many years, he's like a seasoned pro.
This is a story about the end of a marriage, but it's also the story of one woman who was done living in the dark.
You're a dangerous person who preys on vulnerable and trusting people. Your predator, Michael Good.
Listen to Betrayal Season 5 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Detectives in the quiet town of Clinton, Louisiana spent over a year trying to solve the murder of Jenora Guillory.
Normally, there isn't a lot of crime in that area. I mean, it's a very small town, small population, and a very rural area.
Chuck Hussmeyer authored the book Unspeakable Violence about Jenora's murder.
I've been around a lot of crime, but this one was just particularly bad.
The police investigated a rookie cop out of Baton Rouge, who some said was stalking Jenora, but they just didn't have enough evidence to charge him.
They polygraphed him, and he seemed a little shady on the polygraph, but nothing definitive. And there's just no evidence. So the case went cold.
Cold. Something family and friends never want to hear when describing the case of a loved one. For Elbert and Jenora's community, it felt like an answer to her murder would never come. And then, a year later, the investigators got a break when a man named Donnie Fisher was arrested. Donnie was brought in for beating up his girlfriend. Detectives had no connection to him and Jenora, but Donnie was hoping to trade some information to get himself off the hook.
He said he knew something about the Jenora Guillory murder. He said he was talking to a guy, and that guy was bragging about having killed this black woman in Clinton, Louisiana. So they started digging into his story.
That's when detectives learned about a local makeshift gang called the Brotherhood.
The Brotherhood was, 3, 4, maybe 5 guys with a tattoo. They stole the idea from a cheesy B-action movie.
If you've seen the 90s movie Stone Cold, and not too many people have, you may have heard of the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood was a biker gang that was featured in the movie, but the Brotherhood in Clinton operated a bit differently.
They were selling meth. They were fighting pit bulls. They were committing grave robbery. They were literally pulling gold teeth out of people's mouths that they dug up from graves. I mean, you got to have something really wrong in your head to decide that the best way you can earn some money is to go dig up graves and steal their teeth and jewelry. I mean, that's something really screwy in your head there.
And members of this dog-fighting, meth-selling, and grave-robbing gang sported tattoos with the letters GFBD.
GFBD. God forgives, brotherhood doesn't.
That tattoo was a sort of membership badge, but you had to earn it.
And the only way to earn it was to kill somebody.
So who was part of this gang? Well, according to Donnie Fisher, the Brotherhood consisted of Philip Skipper, Janora's neighbor, and his brother-in-law, Johnny Hoyt.
But there's no evidence of animosity between the Skippers and Janora.
The person who fed this information to Donnie Fisher was his friend, John Ballio. You may remember lived with the Skippers.
John Ballio was sort of an orphaned kid. His mother just sort of left him with Philip Skipper and Amy Skipper. They referred to him as their stepson, but he really wasn't any kind of relation to them.
John Ballio would have just been 15 years old at the time of the murder. Early on in their investigation, detectives noticed that John Ballio and his stepfather, Philip Skipper, had a bunch of scratches on their arms and face, but both of them passed a polygraph test. So, the detectives went back to question the teenager about the Brotherhood's connection to Janora's murder.
And, of course, John Ballio denied that he participated in it, but he was there.
John Ballio said he was there the night Janora was murdered, but he pinned the blame on his stepfather, Philip Skipper, along with Philip's sister, Lisa, and her husband, Johnny Hoyt.
John Ballio said Lisa shot her a couple times, Philip hit her with a bat, and that's what killed her.
John Ballio said all he did that night was control Janora's dog, Cleo.
John Ballio's job was to get a rope around the dog's neck. The dog was a chow, and it was sort of vicious, and Janora let that dog sleep in the house with her because it was her protector.
Ballio said it was all part of his initiation into the Brotherhood. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Philip Skipper and John Ballio passed a polygraph test right after Janora's murder, which originally eliminated them as suspects. Here's how they did it. Both of them popped some pills before the test to bring their heart rate down. But still, none of this added up. Why would Philip Skipper want to hurt Janora?
She was extremely generous to them. Whenever they would come ask her for anything, which they did a lot, she would give it to them. She threw a birthday party at a local restaurant for their baby. She actually gave them enough money to help them buy a newer mobile home. Not a new one, but newer and nicer.
As the police investigated, they learned that a month before Janora's murder, the two neighbors had an argument.
The relationship between Janora Guillory and the Skippers started to deteriorate over this incident involving a goat. Now, it's a weird story, but the Skippers had a pet goat. Why? I have no idea. Somehow the goat got loose, and Amy Skipper said that one of Janora's dogs attacked the goat. Amy Skipper called Janora at work, just cussing at her and, just angry, furious about the goat. It turned out it wasn't really one of Janora's dogs. It was a dog, I think, that the Skippers had and gave to Janora that got loose.
So in other words, the Skippers' own dog attacked their goat, but they blamed Janora. The Skippers said the two sides had reconciled. But again, would an incident with a goat be enough of a motive to kill? It seems a little ridiculous.
They did get a search warrant based on what he told them, and they executed the warrant at the trailer across from Janora's house.
Now keep in mind, this search happened well over a year after Janora's murder.
They weren't really able to find anything in the house. They couldn't find the gun, the .22 gun that she was shot with several times. And they did find a bat. John Ballio had told them about a bat, but the bat had been sitting outside their trailer for like 2 years in the rain. So They weren't able to get any evidence, DNA evidence particularly.
One other notable find at the Skippers was some life insurance documents. It was a life policy that named the Skippers as the beneficiary in the event of Janora's death.
Her boyfriend was the beneficiary on the life insurance policy on Janora's life. And when he passed away, she didn't cancel the policy. She saw her neighbors were in, financial straits. So she just named Philip and Amy Skipper as the beneficiaries of the same $25,000 insurance policy. And she figured, if something happened to her, they would have some extra money to help take care of their baby.
Well, that's certainly curious, but it wasn't a secret. Elbert Guillory knew about the life insurance policy, and no one had objected.
Philip and Amy definitely knew about the insurance policy. Janora told them about it. So all of a sudden, the attention shifted to the Skippers and John Ballio, who lived right across the street from Janora Guillory.
Even with these suspects and a confession, the police still did not think they had enough evidence to charge them. Just like with their other suspect, the cop from Baton Rouge.
Most prosecutors are extremely risk averse. They won't tee it up and see what the jury says. They will just drop the case rather than press forward on what they consider a weak case.
The decision not to press charges created a war between the DA and Sheriff's Office.
So we just kind of had to sit back and look at everybody again.
And the unsolved murder left the town of Clinton terrified.
It was the summer of fear. Everybody was buying mace off the shelf as fast as they could get it here. Handgun sales were through the roof.
I'm Sloan Glass. In the conclusion of The Brotherhood, the police learned the surprising answer to why they couldn't find more evidence.
You never have that happen. And that's something I would be embarrassed to try to write in fiction. But in this case, it really happened.
The vicious murder of a Louisiana woman left detectives puzzled.
She'd been shot 5 times, stabbed deeply 5 times, and vigorously beaten with an aluminum baseball bat.
The police had a handful of suspects, but there was a problem.
They just couldn't find enough evidence to really convict them. You can't charge anybody without evidence. They will just drop the case rather than press forward on what they consider a weak case. So that just terrified everybody.
Today, we're in Clinton, Louisiana for the conclusion of The Brotherhood. I'm Sloan Glass, and this is American Homicide. And a warning to our audience. This episode contains graphic descriptions of racial violence. Please take care while listening. In an early summer morning in 2000, police found Janora Guillory stabbed, shot, and beaten to death in the bedroom of her Clinton, Louisiana farmhouse.
You have a woman who really had never done anything to anybody.
Chuck Kussmeyer is a former federal agent turned journalist who wrote about the murder.
She was just the nicest person by all accounts. Nobody ever said anything bad about her. And to have somebody brutally murdered in her own bedroom and no suspects, right there you got kind of the setup for a really bizarre case.
The 42-year-old was a single career woman. She lived alone in rural Clinton, Louisiana.
No one really had any idea who did it, and there were some suspects.
One of those suspects was a Baton Rouge police officer. He and Janora were old friends who had reconnected and dated. But he kept hounding her to the point where her colleagues said he was stalking her.
He was the best candidate they could find. And, that's who they went after. They even polygraphed him.
After he failed his polygraph test, the police got a search warrant. But they couldn't find anything that linked the officer to the murder.
The case sort of went cold after they exhausted all their time on this particular police officer, but the detectives kept working on it.
It was a real struggle to find anything that would link a suspect to the crime, and it dragged on for months. About a year after the murder, detectives got a tip that led them to the house across the street from Janora, where her good friends and neighbors, the Skippers, lived. Those were the only 2 homes on that dead-end street.
It's down at the end of this gravel road. It's an isolated area, and there are no street lights, and the property directly across the street is where the Skippers lived in their trailer.
The Skippers were the first people detectives had questioned because they noticed some scratches on Philip and his stepson John Ballio's arms. The two passed a polygraph and were cleared, but a year later, they re-emerged as suspects.
I don't believe they looked at the Skippers as suspects for a long time. I mean, they were out at the crime scene. In fact, once the sheriff's office released the crime scene, it's really up to the family to clean up the house. They actually hired the Skippers and John Ballio to clean up the crime scene. So any evidence that might have still been there, anything the police may have overlooked, got swept away.
Well, this is a first for me. Potential suspects in the death of Genora were paid to clean up the crime scene. In the last episode, we learned how John Ballio told detectives Philip Skipper and his brother-in-law, Johnny Hoyt, belonged to a gang.
They had this sort of half-assed gang they had formed called the Brotherhood, and they all had tattoos, and the only way to earn it was to kill somebody.
John Ballio said his initiation into that gang involved watching Genora's murder.
Genora and the Skippers had a good relationship for a while. I mean, they had ups and downs.
Detective Don McKee learned one of those downs happened a few weeks before Genora's death. That's when the two sides had an argument over a dog getting loose and attacking the Skippers' goat.
They had a falling out. Genora told them to quit coming over to her place, return the house keys, stay off her land. She was going to stay on hers, and it wouldn't be no more contact.
We covered this previously, but with the new information given by John Ballio, this falling out holds a different weight. On top of that, the Skippers were beneficiaries of one of Genora's life insurance policies. Prosecutors believe that money was part of their motive, and so did a grand jury. In 2001, that grand jury indicted John Ballio and Philip Skipper, along with Lisa and Johnny Hoyt, for the murder of Genora Guillory.
I think that it was an easy target for them right across the road. I hate to say it because she was a black lady. I really believe this was a fine example of just a hate crime. I mean, they wanted to kill a black person.
Genora was black, the suspects were white, and all of that played into what journalist Chuck Hussmeyer learned.
Philip Skipper and Lisa and Johnny Hoyt hated black people, absolutely hated them. That they were raised in this sort of post-Klan culture, and they hated black people. So you have all these white skinhead type guys. They befriend their next door neighbor, who's this black lady who's just ridiculously generous to them. And then they turn around and kill her. And they don't just kill her. I mean, they slaughter her. And part of the reason that I think they found it so easy to kill Genora Guillory was that she was black.
The crime was absolutely shocking, and prosecutors were seeking the death penalty against all four suspects. But with no fingerprints, no murder weapon, no DNA, really nothing that connected the suspects to the murder, the district attorney got nervous.
The district attorney, he initially charged Johnny, Philip, Lisa, and John Ballio with first-degree murder. But I don't think he thought he could win the case. And as a cop, and all the cops I know, you always want them to just bring it to the jury, let the jury decide, but most DAs don't do that.
Prosecutors asked the judge to break the cases into 4 separate trials, one for each suspect. The judge granted this request. In the weeks leading up to the first trial, DA Charles Shropshire asked the judge for more time to collect evidence, but got denied.
He just didn't feel like he had enough, I guess, so he dropped the charges against all of them.
And despite what the grand jury decided, without the proverbial smoking gun, the district attorney refused to move forward.
In my experience in law enforcement, most prosecutors are extremely risk-averse. They will just drop the case rather than press forward on what they consider a weak case.
The decision left the people of Clinton on edge. 4 suspected murderers were suddenly back on the streets. As for the Guillory family,
devastated.
Janora's brother-in-law, Albert, couldn't believe it.
My daughter said, "Daddy, do something." So that kept me pestering the law enforcement officers, the deputies, to see what was going on and how it was proceeding.
That's when things got political. The Guillory case became a talking point when the district attorney, Charles Shropshire, ran for re-election. His challenger, a man named Sam D'Aquila, made a campaign promise to bring justice to Janora.
Fortunately, the voters recognized that they had a gutless district attorney and they threw him out, and a real district attorney came in.
In 2002, Sam D'Aquila beat incumbent Charles Shropshire by nearly 20 percentage points.
Sam D'Aquila was elected, and he was everything that we could have prayed for.
Sam D'Aquila delivered on his promise and got a grand jury to again indict Philip Skipper, Johnny and Lisa Hoyt, and John Ballio. All were charged with first-degree murder and faced the death penalty.
We were very happy. There was a lot of relief on the part of the family.
That relief would be short-lived. You may remember from the last episode that trace amounts of DNA were found under Janora's fingernails. That DNA was sent off to a forensic lab, and since it was the early days of DNA testing, it took forever to compare it to the DNA of the 4 suspects. When the results finally came back, prosecutors took another gut punch.
East Feliciana District Attorney Sam D'Aquila says DNA gathered from one of the fingernails of murder victim Janora Guillory does not match any of the suspects in the case.
Without a positive match, the case against all 4 suspects got exponentially weaker.
Nonetheless, prosecutors say right now they're proceeding with a capital murder trial sometime in June.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured 2 prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the middle of the night, Saskia awoke in a haze. Her husband Mike was on his laptop. What was on his screen would change Saskia's life forever.
I said, I need you to tell me exactly what you're doing. And immediately, the mask came off.
You're supposed to be safe. That's your home. That's your husband.
To keep this secret for so many years, he's like a seasoned pro.
This is a story about the end of a marriage, but it's also the story of one woman who was done living in the dark.
You're a dangerous person who preys on vulnerable and trusting people. Your predator might go up and good.
Listen to Betrayal Season 5 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When you think about murder trials, especially trials involving the death penalty, you probably don't ever think about the cost involved. But for the small town of Clinton, Louisiana, the price tag for trying 4 defendants with capital murder was astronomical.
There were some budget constraints with first-degree murder trials.
Former federal agent and journalist Chuck Hussmeyer covered the Genora Guillory murder trials.
It involves a lot of extra steps. You have to bring in a psychologist. You got to make sure to examine the defendants. There's just a lot of expense to a first-degree murder case.
Here's something fascinating. Capital punishment cases in Louisiana require the defense to put together a mitigation team, usually composed of a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a social worker, who analyze the defendant before, during, and after a crime. If a defendant can't afford that mitigation team, the state has to pay for it. There are also the costs involved with jurors. Louisiana state law requires jurors to be sequestered for the duration of the trial. That means 12 hotel rooms, 3 meals a day, and around-the-clock security. And when you're dealing with 4 separate trials, you have to multiply that by 4. When it's all said and done, these cases would cost the state of Louisiana hundreds of millions of dollars. All of that played into why District Attorney Sam D'Aquila lowered the charges against all 4 defendants.
They were all charged with second-degree murder. And it's an easier and less expensive series of trials he would have to go through, and it wouldn't bankrupt the parish. I mean, I know it seems silly to talk about that, but I guess budget constraints are a real problem.
So instead of the death penalty, each defendant now faced life in prison. But the DA wasn't done wheeling and dealing. His next move would be one of the most controversial.
You make a deal with one of them. And in this case, the weak link was John Ballio. He did seem as though he may have been one of the least culpable of the 4. So that seemed like a good place to start your, trying to make a deal. And that's exactly what the new district attorney did.
I don't blame the DA. He was relying on the DNA under Genora's fingertips to be his smoking gun. Cutting a deal with one of the 4 suspects was one of DA Sam D'Aquila's final moves if he was going to bring justice for the Guillories. With the blessing of Genora's family, the DA made a deal that came at a cost. In exchange for his testimony against the other 3 suspects, the DA offered to charge John Ballio as a juvenile, meaning he'd only be incarcerated until his 21st birthday. It was a gutsy decision that could backfire if the DA failed to secure convictions of the other 3 defendants.
But I understand why the district attorney did it, because without John Ballio's testimony, there's just no evidence. So, he had to make a deal with the devil to get some justice for Genora.
The first to go on trial was Philip Skipper. His trial took place in historic downtown Clinton.
Clinton's kind of centered on a square, the town square.
Clinton's courthouse sits in the middle of that square, and the whole area looks like it's frozen in time.
I think the courthouse is the oldest still functioning courthouse in America.
Built before the Civil War in 1840, the large white brick building with floor-to-ceiling columns takes up a city block and looks like something you'd find in Athens, Greece.
Last time I was there, they didn't have an elevator. There was a lady with a handicap, and she couldn't go up the stairs, so somebody had to literally carry her up and down the old flight of wooden steps. So it's sort of like stepping back in time when you go into Clinton.
That's why the town is so popular with Hollywood. Its downtown looks like an old movie set. The vampire drama True Blood, as well as The Dukes of Hazzard, are just 2 projects that were filmed there. And Hollywood also played a role in these cases. At the time, and even today, having the most advanced forensics was something many jurors came to expect in trials. because of what they saw on TV shows like CSI. They call it the CSI effect. As Philip Skipper's trial grew closer, prosecutors were still falling short.
They weren't able to really find any evidence that linked Philip Skipper to the murder.
Maybe because the Skippers were paid to clean up the crime scene. Prosecutors lacked DNA, so they had to rely on what they did have, that $25,000 payout from Janora's life insurance policy.
And in 2000, it wasn't an enormous amount of money, but you're talking about two people who had to bum money from their neighbor just to buy diapers for their baby, and were living in an old mobile home. So to them, it was quite a windfall profit.
The prosecution also had video evidence of the crime scene that detectives took after discovering her body. The footage contained no sound, but the gory images spoke volumes.
It was so horrendous, and I was just stunned, really, at how violent these people were.
Most importantly, prosecutors had the testimony of John Ballio. His eyewitness account was crucial for securing a conviction. John began by showing the jury the tattoo located on his back that made him part of the Brotherhood. Then, in graphic detail, he explained how he earned that tattoo. It was testimony that Chuck Hussmeyer will never forget, and neither did I after listening. This is very hard to hear.
Philip Skipper, Johnny Hoyt, John Ballio, and Lisa Skipper Hoyt were all sitting around the trailer getting stoned. About 2:30 in the morning, Johnny Hoyt asked Ballio, "Hey, do you want to go kill Janora Guillory? That's how you'll get your tattoo." They walked across the street, mostly barefoot. They didn't want to leave shoe impressions.
Johnny Hoyt's wife, Lisa, knocked on Janora's door, while the men hid off to the side.
Janora came to the door in her nightgown. She had been sound asleep, and Lisa asked her for some money to buy the baby, meaning Amy and Philip's baby, diapers. And true to her nature, Janora turned around to go get them some money. And that's when they pounced on her. And John Ballio said that she didn't go down easily. I mean, she was really fighting them. And it's 4-on-1. 3 men and a woman. Johnny Hoyt punched her in the face first. She turned and ran to the phone. There's blood on the phone. She tried to pick it up to use it. She couldn't. She didn't have time. They hit her again. She reached in a drawer to get some kind of a knife. They kept attacking her. I mean, they're like rabid dogs, all right? They're attacking her. She's running. She went back into the house farther. She got into her bedroom, tried to lock the door. Naturally, they forced it open. One of them picked up a pretty heavy lamp off of a nightstand and just cracked it across her head. And that's what killed her.
It's almost unbelievable to think her neighbors and good friends, her employees, carried out these violent acts. Over the course of John Ballio's testimony, he only admitted to tying up Janora's dog, Cleo.
I've heard a good bit of confessions. I've never heard one like that was that brutal. I mean, that's one of the most brutal crimes I've ever covered in my post-law enforcement career as a journalist.
But Philip Skipper's defense attorney promised the jury that he would unmask the real killer and pointed the blame at the original suspect, the Baton Rouge police officer named Steve. Remember him? Officer Steve was one of the original suspects who was said to be stalking Janora. Steve took the stand and immediately denied stalking her. He said he stopped cooperating in the investigation because he felt like he was being framed. He claimed his polygraph was administered improperly, and that's why he failed. In a bizarre moment during closing arguments, Philip Skipper's lawyer suggested a riddle that pointed to Janora Guillory's real killer. There's no way to say this that doesn't sound ridiculous. He said Janora took 5 shots, 5 blows, and 5 stab wounds. 5, 5, 5. He then casually added that Steve was born in May of 1955. In other words, 5, 5, 5.
So that's a bit odd, yeah. You don't see that every day.
It was a ridiculous argument, and the jury knew it. They deliberated for less than an hour and found Philip Skipper guilty of second-degree murder.
Philip Skipper got life in prison.
The judge called Janora's murder brutal, senseless, and gruesome. He sentenced Philip to life in prison and said he wished he could give him even more than that. At the time Johnny Hoyt stood trial, Louisiana law required only 10 of 12 jurors to find the defendant guilty to secure a conviction. That law, by the way, has since been eliminated. But at the time, prosecutors played the odds. And once again, John Ballio's testimony was central to their case.
According to John Ballio, Johnny Hoyt came into town the night that they killed Janor and was instrumental in participating in the murder.
But Johnny Hoyt's lawyer worked to pin the blame back on John Ballio. He argued that years of abuse from Philip Skipper turned John into a murderer.
Philip Skipper sexually abused him for years. You know, he burned the kid a lot with cigarettes and, beat him, sexually abused him.
Johnny Hoyt's lawyer called John Ballio's testimony a rotten, worm-infested apple. He told the jurors that you don't eat around the rotten part, you throw it all away. Well, the jurors threw that argument away. They needed about 2 hours to find Johnny Hoyt guilty of second-degree murder. What's interesting about that is only 10 jurors voted for guilty, but it was enough to convict and have Johnny Hoyt spend the rest of his life in prison. That meant Johnny's wife, Lisa Hoyt, would be next to go on trial. But after seeing her husband and brother get put away for life, she decided not to test her luck.
She never went to trial on this case. She pled guilty to a manslaughter count, and she got the 25-year max for manslaughter.
She should feel lucky that's all she got. All these people are evil, but there is something about a woman using a baby to trick another woman that feels really evil.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the middle of the night, Saskia awoke in a haze. Her husband, Mike, was on his laptop. What was on his screen would change Saskia's life forever.
I said, I need you to tell me exactly what you're doing. And immediately, the mask came off.
You're supposed to be safe. That's your home. That's your husband.
To keep this secret for so many years, he's like a seasoned pro.
This is a story about the end of a marriage, but it's also the story of one woman who was done living in the dark.
You're a dangerous person who preys on vulnerable and trusting people. Your predator might go up and good.
Listen to Betrayal Season 5 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Shortly after all of Genora Guillory's killers were sentenced, tragedy struck the Guillory family once again.
Genora's dad, just a few weeks after the last trial, died really of a broken heart.
Genora's father was 70 years old. He passed away in July 2005.
He loved this child. He loved his family. And so it had a very negative effect on him.
Genora's dad was buried next to her in their hometown of Eunice, Louisiana. In a nod to Genora's love of animals, her tombstone features a drawing of a dog and a horse. If Genora was still alive today, her brother-in-law imagines those animals would still be a big part of her life.
She'd still be living in Clinton. We would probably have had to buy more land to house the dogs and horses and other assorted animals that she would have come across.
Another wrinkle in this whole story is that long before the Skippers were suspects, they reached out to Elbert for help collecting Genora's life insurance policy.
Within a couple of days of her death, the Skippers contacted me with the policy, and I assisted them in getting it paid.
Elbert never found it unusual because he was aware of the policy.
Actually, Genora had told the family that in case anything would happen to her, the Skippers would be provided for.
And so helping the Skippers collect that money didn't raise any red flags.
It did not seem out of the ordinary at all. They were in necessitous circumstances. It was just purely her love for that family, her concern for that family's well-being, and her insistence on participating in their future in a positive way.
No one, including Elbert, saw the Skippers as anything but helpful and friendly neighbors.
Skipper family was right there with us. They behaved just as one would expect close friends to behave.
Obviously, Elbert's feelings about Philip and the Skippers have done a 180.
I would not sit here and tell you that I did not consider a number of ways that I could have gotten some time with Philip Skipper or reached out and touched him in some way. And when I say reached out and touched him, I didn't mean a gentle pat on his back. But the court system, the criminal justice system is something that I've chosen to live by, and so I lived by it.
Some, including one of the detectives who worked this case, have labeled the murder of Genora Guillory a hate crime. But Elbert disagrees.
I've never related this to Louisiana or conditions in Louisiana. The skinheads exist in America, and that's just a part of life. I don't believe that their attack on Genora was as much racial as it was financial, although I recognize that there are certainly some serious racial implications in this. Philip's cohorts had to be really upset and angry at the fact that in this world, Genora could be so successful while they were so unsuccessful. And so I'm sure that inflamed their racial passions.
In 2012, Philip Skipper underwent surgery in prison and died. There's no indication of what happened, but given that he was just 34 years old, perhaps some prison justice was done. Philip was survived by his wife, Amy Skipper, who is one person we haven't talked much about. Amy Skipper was never charged in the case. She was pregnant at the time of Genora's murder and testified that she was asleep when the others carried out the crime.
And as far as I know, she hasn't been charged with anything. She wasn't really involved in it.
Chuck Hussmeyer has his opinions on this.
Philip Skipper and Johnny Hoyt, they're from Livingston Parish. When I was young, and even when I was first in law enforcement, Livingston Parish was like known as the home of the Klan. My first partner at the DA's office was a black investigator, and we had to go over there to serve a warrant or a subpoena or something. And he's like, I ain't gonna be over here after dark. I'm like, why? He goes, because you just can't if you're black. That's the reputation Livingston Parish had. So, not surprising that these guys grew up like that.
And that's how a man working in the DA's office felt. Imagine being a woman living in an unpopulated road. That was Janora's reality every day. Still, she believed she had friends watching her back.
There's no doubt that they were nice to her at the time, but that all turned out to be a mask. John Ballio said they would always call her names behind her back and sort of belittle her and talk about how they had fooled her. I mean, I wish she had had a more skeptical bone in her body somewhere, because we wouldn't be having this conversation and should be living out there with the dogs right now.
So then there's Johnny Hoyt. Today, Johnny Hoyt is serving out a life sentence. In 2008, Johnny was due in court on an unrelated murder charge. According to the warden, that's when he planned to escape using a makeshift handcuff key. Unfortunately for Johnny, prison officials caught wind of his plan. He was put into solitary confinement in 2010 and remained there for the next decade. Then in 2020, Johnny sued the prison, claiming his rights were violated. A judge dismissed the suit in 2023. As for Johnny's wife, Lisa Hoyt, she took a plea deal and served just over 20 years. Today, she is a free woman. That leaves us with John Ballio, whose confession and cooperation helped to bring justice for Janora Guillory.
By the time this case was sort of solved and they charged everybody, he was 19, maybe 20. So he was, facing a possibility of juvenile life, which is not but like a year. He's already almost 20 years old.
Including time served, John Ballio ended up spending about 4.5 years in jail.
The DA really had a choice: let all these killers go or get 3 of them. And he chose to get 3 of them. And, you had to make a deal with the 4th. I think it's a total miscarriage of justice to have to cut a deal with a guy like John Ballio and give him, 1 year in jail for murdering somebody like Janora Guillory. But I understand why the district attorney did it, because without John Ballio's testimony, he wouldn't have gotten convictions on the other 3. He did what he could do to get himself the best deal possible.
John Ballio was released from prison on his 21st birthday, but he'd quickly find his way back.
He's been in and out of jail since he was released on the Janora Guillory case. He's been arrested a few times. He's just part of that group of people. They're, in and out of prison all the time.